Welcome to Paranormal Almanac with your host, Kurt Sandvik.
Hey, howdy, hi. Welcome to an all-new edition of Paranormal Almanac. And on this week's edition, let's talk all things vampires. But first, as always, we have shout-outs. Getting right into it. Shout-outs going out to Heather G's Jeffrey B. I like that one. Heather G's Jeffrey B. Newt MacGyver. Scott Johnny the Pommy, Matt Lord, JT, Doogie Whore, Mike G, Tracy B, Ryden, Jeff, Brenda, Richard, Charles, Lori, Alec, Karen, Duran, Lori, Rebecca, Ann, Stephen. Hey, howdy, hi to Stephen Scher, Jane Ann, Jennifer, Heather G, your friendly neighborhood skinwalker, Zuzus, what's it, Nico Scher and the Mouse, Mark and Tina, Tortuga, Mike from Jersey, Jay Bizzle, Andy, Tracy, hey, howdy, hi, Virginia, Tony the Magician, Jason, Vicky, Crow, Libido Burks, Glacier Maine, Isabel, Jen, Stacy, Amber, Tracy, Kelly, Joe, Menace the Beast, Kiss Ass, Kick Ass, not Kiss Ass, Kick Ass, Magic Robot Web Comic. Once again, that is Kick Ass, Magic Robot Web Comic. Go check them out, seriously. Sandy, Paige, Couch, Bentman666, Scott, Andrea, Melody, Vanessa, Marisol, Liam, Becca, Jake, Charlotte and the Beasties, Elizabeth, Sherry, Artmuth and Tim, Kenneth, Ricky, Alexandra, George, Zozo the Demon, Hayden, Cindy, Ashley, Carrie, Robin, Will, Lauren, Russell, Isabel, Audra, Dorian, Cindy, Paula, Jerry, Jeff T, hey, howdy, hi, buddy, Joe, Lawrence, Melissa, the Lauren Strawn, hey, howdy, hi, Veronica, Autumn, J. Mark, Carolyn, Jade, Nanashi, Todd, Jamie, and Elijah Hendrickson, Dan, Laura Pitts, and Gamer Fan. With two special shout-outs, as always, to Joe Teague and to my boy Stitch. Let's see. Before we get into it, I want to thank everybody. Well, I guess I have more shout-outs. I want to thank everybody. Thank you all so much for the gifts, the cards, the letters. Oh, my God. Mail Day has been a fantastic thing. I'm overwhelmed how awesome all the Paramaniacs are. If you feel so inclined, you can feel free to mail me at, mail stuff to me. I don't know what I'm trying to say. To Paranormal Almanac or Kurt Sandvik at 1812 West Burbank Boulevard, number 7102, Burbank, California, 91506. Once again, that's Paranormal Almanac, 1812 West Burbank Boulevard, number 7102, Burbank, California, 91506. Before we get into paranormal news, I have to tell you guys that TeePublic is having a sale right now, and it's actually a big sale. They told me to inform you, so I'm doing that now. Head on over to teepublic.com/stores/paranormal-almanac. There are new styles. There's new merch even, and it's all on sale. And some of it's like seriously on sale. I'm actually buying myself a couple of shirts because I'm one of those guys that I'll wear my own merch. I'll wear my own merch all the time if I could. So I'm gladly going over there to buy my own merch. Actually, after this episode, because I just realized that I meant to do it last night and I didn't do it. All righty, let's get right into paranormal news.
There's something in here. What was that? It's time for paranormal news.
Alrighty, the first story in paranormal news is not paranormal in the slightest, but it is a treasure hunt. And it is my kind of treasure hunt. It is a John Lennon treasure hunt. That's right. A game of the mind, a citywide treasure hunt across John Lennon's Liverpool starts at Liverpool Town Hall at 9 a.m. on July 6th. 2024, in case you're listening to this years from now and you go, what? I want to do it. Well, you can't. It's July 6th, 2024. But if you are in or around Liverpool and you're a Beatles fan or a John Lennon fan, please, for the love of God, do this. When I heard about this, I immediately was like, what can I sell to get me a plane ticket over to Liverpool? And the answer is everything I own, and I still probably shouldn't do it because I can't really afford it. But it looks insanely cool. So if you head on over to johnlennon.com, it's the main splash on the main page splash, whatever you want to call it. They did this incredible artist did a map of Liverpool with John Lennon's portrait in it. And you can buy those, which I will, because that's, I can afford $30. I think it's 30. But with that map and a black light, it's going to highlight certain areas of the city. And if you're in Liverpool on July 6, 2024, at 9 a.m. at the Liverpool Town Hall, you can join in on the treasure hunt. Now, it doesn't say what you're going to win, but my guess is that you're going to win the Mind Games Lennon either deluxe set or super deluxe set. There's a new deluxe set coming out that looks absolutely incredible. Come on up. Hi, Realm. How are you? Talking John Lennon. So my guess is you're going to win something like that, or CDs or merch, John Lennon merch, all well and cool. And, heck yeah. Yes, please. So I just had to let you guys know that, because you guys know, I love a good treasure hunt, and that's a damn good treasure hunt. Alrighty, up next in paranormal news, actually kind of paranormal, NASA fired scientists for refusing to destroy evidence of ancient alien civilizations found on the moon. Now, I think I talked about this one last week. If I didn't, I'll give you a brief recap. Basically, a former NASA scientist has come forward with claims of a massive cover-up within the agency. His name is Ken Johnston. He's a former civilian astronaut consultant pilot. Now, he alleges he was ordered to destroy photographic evidence of ancient alien structures on the surface of the moon. How much do I believe in this? I don't know. Look, is it possible that they found something on the moon? Oh, yeah, 100%. Is it possible that's, one of the main theories is that's why we stopped going there? Sure, could be. I don't know. All I know is we did go to the moon. If you don't think we went to the moon, there is scientific evidence that we went to the moon that you can do right here on Earth. We went to the moon. NASA, the United States government, people in general are not that good where hundreds of thousands of people can keep that secret that we filmed it on a soundstage, Stanley Kubrick, and you can see a sea on the rock. No, you can't. I did a whole episode about it. Please listen to that. But is it possible that there's ancient alien civilizations on the moon? Yeah, more than possible. Probably them on Earth, too. I don't know, I need to see more and more people talking to this gentleman, established people talking to this gentleman, verifying his claims. Did he work there at the time? What was his job at the time? He said that he was in charge of photographing and documenting their exact location, but one day his boss ordered him to destroy these images. He said that he believes the agency has long been concealing the truth from the public, doctoring and censoring the footage and photographs that were eventually released. In his book, Ken's Moon, Revealing the Dark Missions of NASA, Johnston has shared some of the purported evidence he was ordered to destroy. The images appear to show the ruins of various structures, hinting at the possibility of ancient extraterrestrial presence on the lunar surface. Now, I'm trying to find this guy to reach out to him, see if I can it'd be an open interview. I'm not going to just say that he's a liar. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But I just want some kind of proof, some kind of validation that he did work for NASA at the time and might have had that part of a job. But really interesting nonetheless. All right, so up next in paranormal news. Come on. There we go. Scientists may finally be close to explaining strange radio signals from beyond the Milky Way. That's right, fast radio bursts, FRBs, are intense, short-lived blasts of radio waves hailing from beyond the Milky Way that can emit the same amount of energy in just a thousandth of a second that the sun takes 3 days to emit, not admit. However, despite their power and the fact around 10,000 FRBs could erupt in the sky over Earth every day, they remain mysterious, and they still haven't figured them out. I'm not gonna. I'll jump to the end because I want to kind of get to the episode at hand. But they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's causing them, but they think they're getting closer to doing it. Alrighty, up next to paranormal news, researchers have found possible alien megastructures. Now, there's a study. 7 stars identified could be surrounded by these megastructures. They're called Dyson spheres. And a long time ago, a couple of years ago maybe, it was big in paranormal news that they thought they found one around this star. And they were like, no, it's probably just like dust particles or something. But now they have 7 possible targets. And this new study shows possible alien megastructures called Dyson spheres. This is the big thing. This is the it thing for finding alien life beyond our galaxy. And it's looking more and more like we might have found one, if not more than one. That is absolutely incredible. I can't wait for them to verify that. Up next in paranormal news, Harvard researchers suggest aliens may live among us underground or on the moon. The key part to this story that a lot of people are just like, well, that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Like immediately discounting. This isn't random scientist says this. No, Harvard researchers. A recent legitimization of reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, commonly called UAPs, has brought more eyeballs to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. While a long-awaited government report issued earlier this year found no evidence of aliens or extraterrestrial intelligence, 2 professors from Harvard University and a colleague at Montana Technological University suggested humanity may just be looking in the wrong places. Instead, reality could be something similar to the science fiction movies like 1988's They Live, in which special glasses allow man to see aliens who disguise themselves as humans and live in plain sight. They think that, look, the bottom line is, again, I want to kind of get to this episode. They think that aliens are living among us, underground, or on the moon. And again, it's Harvard. This is disclosure. I don't know how many times I can say it. This is disclosure. This is what disclosure looks like right here, folks. Up next, paranormal news. Las Vegas Police Department issues statement after mysterious monolith is found in Nevada desert. That's right. Monoliths are back. Another mysterious monolith has been found in the Nevada desert, similar to those found around the world several years ago. Far back as 2020, as if the world couldn't have gotten any weirder that year, a random monolith appeared in the Utah desert and remained there for 9 days. Now, these monoliths are being taken down almost as quickly as they're being put up, but more monoliths back in the news. Are they aliens? No, not at all. Are they fun? I mean, I think so. I think it's kind of funny. Up next in paranormal news, angels or aliens? Some researchers say Vatican archives hold UFO secrets. Another thing that I've been saying forever. I love the second I start to do this episode, everybody in the world starts mowing their lawn. I apologize. Let me see if you guys can hear that. Maybe a little bit in the background. I apologize. But some scientists believe the Vatican's historic archives might hold key insights into unidentified anomalous phenomena and paranormal activity. Nope, it's too loud. Hold on. That didn't help at all. All right, hopefully it's not too terribly loud in the background. There's a lot of things I can control, and one of the things I can't are the idiots next door. All righty, and not my cool neighbors. Actually, it's not neither of my neighbors. Both my neighbors on either side are cool, but my one neighbor's gardeners are the biggest morons in the world. But anyhow, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the Vatican. Vatican archives. I've been saying this for a while now. The Vatican archives hold a lot more than just stuff about Jesus. There's a shit ton of stuff there. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear too much. It's a crap ton of stuff there that I think they do know more than they know about a lot of paranormal activity, including aliens. Some scientists believe the Vatican's historic archives might hold key insight into unidentified anomalous phenomena and paranormal activity. A group of scientists and researchers are seeking access to the Vatican apostolic archives, the Vatican archives, to uncover information about UFOs and the paranormal, believing there may be traces amid the 50 miles of shelves holding everything from handwritten papal notes to presidential missives. 50 miles under the Vatican. There's 50 miles of shelves. That's insane. The decades-long effort gained momentum in 2023 following a former U.S. following David Grush's testimony. That's cool. He alleged the Vatican's involvement in an international cover-up of alien secrets. He claimed that Pope Pius VII back-channeled information to the United States about a crashed UFO recovered by fascist dictator Mussolini. Now, do I believe that? It's very, very possible. Do I believe that they hold something that has information that a lot of people could benefit from? Oh, hell yes. Oh, my God, yeah. The archives, they actually show a photo of the archives. It's dated February 27th, 2020. It's insane. It's like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but instead of like crates, it's file folders of books and papers and stuff. My God, I would love to go in there. That'd be incredible. The Vatican's archivists are in a mad rush to digitize what they have. They have to prioritize what they think is most important. They aren't really prioritizing orbs that are bothering nuns in the 1800s. So they said the Vatican is probably the oldest library system of paranormal or supernatural knowledge still extant. The archive has an aura of both mysticism and a feeling of deep truth that if you just know how to read it, you can pull that information out. That is absolutely incredible. Oh, what I wouldn't give to go down there for just a week. The entire time, the full week, I'd be down there. Up next in paranormal news, UFOs soar from taboo to presidential. Time has come to inject UAPs into the elections, an institute says. That's right, a social media campaign called #DisclosureDebate is catching on to convince moderators of presidential debates to ask about UFOs. While I think this is cool, I'm not going to read the whole article. You get the gist from that headline. While I think it's really cool, you also have to remember that just because they're the president doesn't mean they're told everything. The CIA, head of the CIA, sure, he probably knows way more than the president knows, but still really interesting, and why not? If the public demands it, why shouldn't it happen? And more of the public are getting behind UFOs finally. Like I've always said, like I've been saying, for the past since 2017, people are finally starting to come around to UFOs are real, aliens are real, and it makes me so happy to finally be able to say, yeah, I know. I told you. I've been telling you from the beginning. Come on, people. Alrighty, up next in paranormal news, new compelling evidence found at Roswell UFO site could prove alien craft crashed there in 1947. That's right. Y'all know about the crash. I don't need to go back into that. Geologist Frank Kimbler is among many experts who have challenged the military's official version of what crashed on the outskirts of the New Mexico town, where he has scoured the alleged UFO's crash site with a metal detector since 2010. He's since uncovered over 20 unusual scraps of metal material, most no bigger than a fingernail, and has now submitted one uniquely odd metal for testing to the Discovery Channel's new series, Alien Encounters: Fact or Fiction. Now, testing revealed that the metal was 100% pure aluminum, which experts said was compelling evidence that could prove aliens crashed into that area decades ago. Doesn't say why. Let's see. No, it doesn't say why. They said that tests on the pure aluminum mystery metal to be compelling, in part because a former Pentagon UFO investigator has told her that pure aluminum has been connected to multiple other UFO crash sites. While Newton did not name her Pentagon source, she described them as a source formerly from ATIP. Yeah, that's fine. That's enough. It's because it's pure aluminum, I guess, is the key thing. But again, yeah, of course, an alien UFO crashed in Roswell. It was not a weather balloon. That's been disproved. It was not crash dummies. That's been disproved. All of the things every other decade's theory has been disproved, and the only one that seems to hold any weight was a UFO. Alrighty, up next in paranormal news, hairy aliens. That's right, hairy aliens use mind control to scare off officials from UFO crash site. Ex-CIA scientist claims. Let's see. Startling allegations have surfaced claiming that diminutive, hairy, gray aliens once visited Earth and used mind control on undercover U.S. officials to prevent the recovery of a UFO crash site. These astonishing revelations emerged from the recently disclosed emails between former CIA scientist Hal Puthoff, and ex-CIA Life Sciences Division analyst Kit Green. Their exchanges were revealed in a 1999 issue of a UFO magazine penned under the false name Greg Halifax. Here, the narrative of an individual known as Sedge Masters was detailed, who was part of a squad tasked with securing a downed UFO UAP. That's insane. It's cool. Do I believe it? I don't know. But it's not on, like, Weekly World News. It's on, MSN.com. So is it possible? Again, yeah. At this point, anything is possible. The fact that they're hairy gray aliens is weird because that's not the norm, but sure, why not? Up next in paranormal news, you can't tell me what's up in these hills. Skeptics and believers gather in Medellin Falls for annual Bigfoot Festival. That's right. Medellin Falls, Washington, this past weekend had a Bigfoot Festival with over 300 locals divided in their beliefs of is it real or is it fake? That's cool. That's way cool. And finally, not so much paranormal news, but I just want to give a shout out. Head on over, if you're on Facebook, do me a favor, head on over to Haunted Manitou. That's Manitou. Haunted Manitou. So, hauntedmanitou.com is a Haunted Manitou Springs ghost tour and historic walk. You can buy tickets, you can check it out. They seem like really, really good people, and I just want to get the word out as much as I can to check them out. Head on over, again, to either hauntedmanitou.com or Haunted Manitou on Facebook. Check them out. I've already liked them. Just give them a like. It doesn't hurt to give people a like. They're doing the good work of doing paranormal ghost tours and whatnot in town, and I think it's way cool. Alrighty, that about does it for paranormal news. Give me 1 second, see if this settles down a little bit, and we'll be right back with vampires. We are back, and so is the stupid lawn people. They're still going. But hopefully, again, it's not showing up on my little, graphic equalizer bar. So hopefully you don't even hear them, and you just think I'm talking about something that's not happening. But hopefully, because I want this to be as clean as possible, because it's going to be a long one. We're back. Let's get into vampires, huh? Sure, I've talked about vampires many a time on many an episode, but I've never done a full vampire episode that I can remember. And if I have, well, here's some more. Vampires. Where did they start? What are they? Where are they found? How do you protect yourself from them? And most importantly, what are the many, many, many ways that you can kill one? Now, let me just pause right here to say, make sure they're a vampire. Like, really, really make sure they're an actual vampire before you go kill something and go, well, I learned it from listening to Paranormal Almanac. Paranormal Almanac is not liable for any vampire deaths. Kurt is not a vampire, which is, of course, something a vampire would say. But seriously, Kurt is not a vampire. So where do I start? Or more importantly, when you think of vampires, where do you start? Do you think of a vampire right now? Do you think of sexy vampires? Sparkly vampires? 80s vampire Kiefer Sutherland, because that's a good one. Bela Lugosi, who Kurt votes as one of the least sexiest vampires. Or do you think of the sexiest vampire ever, regular human bartender Jackie Daytona?
That nonsense on Staten Island, I cut loose to Pennsylvania because it sounded like Transylvania. We all know that sounds cool. I infiltrated the township posing as your average American Yankee Doodle dandy, and I took over Lucky Brew's Bar and Grill. The previous owner, he mysteriously disappeared because I killed him. Drinks on the house! And I've not looked back since. I now go by the name of Daytona, Jackie Daytona. And I'll tell you something, Jackie Daytona's life, it ain't so bad.
That's right. The sexiest vampire as far as anybody should be concerned. But speaking of sexy vampires, I was like, when I started doing that, doing this outline, and I thought about how just unsexy Bela Lugosi is. I mean, he just looks like, one of your neighbors, but with a suit on, Not sexy at all. There's no, like, teenage girls that are going to, like, drop panty for Bela Lugosi. God, I hope not anyway. But I figured, you know what? If I'm thinking about who is the least sexiest and the sexiest of all vampires, there's got to be a list out there. And, yeah, there is a very bizarre ranking of vampires by hotness. It's on vulture.com. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Number 35 is Brad Pitt from Interview with a Vampire. That's way too low because, Brad Pitt's a good-looking dude. Let's see. 34 is Marceline from Adventure Time. 33 is Russell Edgington from True Blood. 32 is Arrow from the Twilight series. No idea. Never seen him. 31 is Maximilian. That's Eddie Murphy from Vampire in Brooklyn. Oh, the hell you say. Eddie Murphy as a vampire is sexier than Brad Pitt as a vamp? No, come on now. 30 is Victor from Underworld. Sure, why not? Here we go. This is where it gets weird. Number 29 on this list is Count Von Count. That's the Count, the Muppet from Sesame Street. He is sexier than Brad Pitt and Eddie Murphy. That's a weird one to throw out there. 28 is Danica Talos, Parker Posey in Blade Trinity. Skipping ahead. Let's see. Number 26, we got Kiefer Sutherland, Lost Boys. Hells yeah. Let's see. Keeping on going. All right. Santanico Pandemonium. That's Selma Hayek from Dusk Till Dawn is 24. Fun fact. I was supposed to be in that scene. The only reason I didn't do that extra work, because I got called up and they said, hey, you got 3 days or 4 days out in the desert. They'll put you up in a, like give you a little trailer kind of thing with a bunch of other extras. It's a Rodriguez movie. It should be fun. You'll like it. Had they said you get to watch Selma Hayek in a tiny bikini dancing with a snake for 4 days as a vampire, I would have done it in a heartbeat. But sadly, I turned it down so I could do a TV show called Caroline in the City with Leah Thompson, which was equally amazing because I've always been in love with Leah Thompson. But yeah, I could have been in From Dusk Till Dawn, but I wasn't. All right, let's see. 23 is Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's skip ahead here. I don't even know who these people are. Yeah, number 19, Deborah Ann Wall from True Blood. Yeah, oh yeah, gorgeous. Let's see, there's one for Vampire Diaries, another one from Vampire Diaries. Kate Beckinsale, 16 from Underworld. That should be way higher. She's so gorgeous. Number 14 and 15 is Catherine Deneuve and David Bowie from The Hunger. Yep, I 100% agree with that one. Then we go, number 11 is Edward Cullen. That's Robert Pattinson from the Twilight Saga. Number 10, Laszlo Cravenworth himself, the one I was just playing from What We Do in the Shadows, in case you didn't know what I was playing a minute ago. Number 9 is Ilea from Queen of the Damned. Number 8 is Ian Somerhalder from The Vampire Diaries. Number 7 is Angel from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 5 and 6 is Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton from Only Lovers Left Alive. Number 4, Wesley Snipes coming in number 4 in Blade. Number 3, Elijah Michelson, I don't know, from The Vampire Diaries. Don't know, don't care. Number 2, Alexander Skarsgård from True Blood. Sure, yeah, of course. But the number 1 vampire, Nina Dobrov, I don't know, from The Vampire Diaries. Now, again, I don't know The Vampire Diaries. She's obviously very attractive. Is she more attractive than the Count from Sesame Street? I just don't know. So I have no idea what to do with that info. So I have to ask, where do I start? I asked you already, where do I start? More importantly, when you think of vampires, where do I start this episode? And that's why it took me so long to write this outline. It's because I had no idea where to start. I'll be honest, I still have no idea. It's not as easy as, all right, let's start with Bram Stoker's Dracula. No. Vampires happened way before that. In fact, you have to go back, and I mean way back, to the beginnings of vampires. And even then, it's murky at best as to where vampires started. So Kurt's doing more and more research, way too much research on vampires. And I say, all right, do I just start with Mormo? And I figured, sure, why not? It's as good a place as any to start. And you might be going, Kurt, I know everything about vampires. I love every vampire movie. You said all those people's names wrong in that freaking thing. You can't even say Catherine Deneuve. I get that. But my bet is you're going to learn something from this episode on vampires, because I deep dove down this rabbit hole, which led me to this rabbit hole, which led me to this rabbit hole, and I kept deep diving and deep diving and deep diving. And again, I didn't know about Mormo, so sure, let's start with Mormo. Mormo from Greece is a good possible vampire starting point because Mormo has, I don't know if Mormo is necessarily a vampire. Mormo has the plural form Mormones, which means fearful ones or hideous ones, and a variant Mormols, which translates to terrible wolves if you say it properly, like I did not do. So, wolves or lycos. Is this the start of vampires or werewolves? And I'll be honest, I don't know. So I'm like, well, let's keep going. Let's find out. Because the start of vampires aren't the typical Bram Stoker Dracula. It's not, fangs come down and a bunch of suck your blood, that kind of crap. It's really mixed with a lot of stuff. So the original Mormo was a woman of Corinth. Now, she ate her children, then flew out. So children eating, it's more werewolf, but flying out, more vampire. Crap, let's keep going. So Mormo has been described as a female specter, phantom, or ghost. All right, I got to that point. I went, so not a vampire or a werewolf, but a specter? This isn't helping me. So I kept going. Mormo and Gello, I don't think it's Jello because that's just too weird, are also aliases for Lamia, according to one scholar list. Now, this scholar list he claimed that she was the queen of man-eating giants. All right, now you see why I'm so frustrated to get this episode going, because I still haven't gotten to a clean line about Mormo that says, yeah, they're vampires. Until this next part. I found this site that did a deep dive research-wise about Mormo. And it says, ultimately, it is mostly agreed upon that Mormo is a vampiric-type creature in Greek mythology that preyed on children. All righty, so Mormo is a vampire, one of the earliest known writings about vampires. But what did it look like? Well, one writing said that the Mormo is not as ugly as the Empus, but is still covered with its own blood and blisters, and that it shapeshifts into a beautiful woman and lure men to their doom, consuming their blood and flesh. It can also shapeshift into 1,000 different terrifying forms as well. Well, you might be asking, Kurt, whoa, you just said Empus and just breeze through it. It doesn't matter. Don't go down that rabbit hole. I did. It does not help you find out what a vampire is. So this is a stretch to say that Mormo is the start of vampires, but maybe, again, scholars, research people smarter than me are saying ultimately it's most agreed upon that Mormo is a vampiric type creature in Greek mythology that preyed on children. So it does deserve a mention on this episode, and, well, I did that. So instead of Mormo, how about this? Do I start this episode with the first historical record of a vampire? I thought that's a good way to go. It's a historical record. What's the oldest one? Sure, let's do that. For that, we go to Kringa, Croatia, to a name I'm going to get wrong, so everybody relax. Jur Grando Alivovic, or Girgrando. Now, Girgrando was born in 1578, and he died in 1656, or did he? Well, he was a villager from the region of Istria, which is modern-day Croatia, who may have been the first real person described as a vampire in historical records. Because in 1656, Girgrando died and reportedly came back as a strijon, or vampire. That's right, for 16 years in this historical record. This is not Greek mythology. This is not fiction. For 16 years, this historical record said he rose from his grave at night to knock on doors and to suck those who answered dry. It doesn't clarify anywhere on the internet that statement. So, yep, he's knocking on doors and he's sucking those who answered dry. It said the villagers went to his grave and put a stake through his heart, which did nothing to slow him down. So then they tried decapitation, which is said to have stopped the nighttime suck-offs in the village. So that's the end of Xior? Is he obviously the best place to start this episode? For 16 years, this guy that died, that everybody knew died, rose from his grave at night to suck people off until they decapitated him, and then no more sucking off. Is that the best place to start this episode? Maybe not. Because further research on this episode led me to, quote, the earliest historical reference we have to a vampire is that from a text in Old Russian written in 1047 AD, titled something to the effect that translates to foul vampire. That's right. In 1070 AD, that was the year that a Russian prince was dubbed Upir Lichi, a title that translates, if you say it properly and I didn't, to wicked vampire. All right. That's a little closer to a vampire start. Or does it? Because that led me to the tale of the Jiangshi. Now, for this, we got to stay in the 11th century, but we're going to go over to China, all right? That's when villagers talked openly about Jiangshi. Now, Jiangshi, or rigor mortis ridden reanimated corpses, went through the villages at night searching for qi, the human life force. So it's not blood, but it's still like life suckers. Now, they're said to be created when a person's soul fails to leave the deceased body, but are more like zombies than vampires because they're with greenish white furry skin from fungus or mold growing on the corpses. Is that where I start this episode? Probably. Because from there, let's jump to when the first word vampire was first written. For that, we go to 1725. Finally, we have the word vampire being written because in the 1720s, the military is sent to investigate what's going on, and there's a report sent back saying that a body has been exhumed and staked and then cremated because it was terrorizing the local community. This body was a vampire, or vampire, but vampire. Very, very cool. Then we go to East Prussia in 1721, and in the Habsburg monarchy from 1725 to 1734, which spread to other localities. You had two infamous vampire cases. The first to be officially recorded involved the corpse of Peter Blagovic and Milos Cisar, both from Serbia. Now, Blagovic was reported to have died at the age of 62, but allegedly returned after his death asking his son for food. When his son's like, you dead, he was found dead the next day. So there's a lesson for you. If your dad dies and then the next day comes to you asking for food, just give him food. Be on the safe side, give him food. Because that son he refused, found dead the following day. Peter supposedly returned and attacked some neighbors who died from loss of blood. And then Milos, the other one, is an ex-soldier turned farmer who was supposedly attacked by a vampire years before. He died while hanging. I don't know. It's not important. Let's keep going. So he dies hanging. Then after his death, people began to die in the surrounding area, and it was believed by the government and the villagers that Milos had returned to prey on his neighbors. Now, these two incidents were well documented. Government officials examined the bodies, wrote case reports, published books throughout Europe, which caused even more people to panic. And because of that government taking things so seriously, This became known as the 18th century vampire controversy, and it lasted for years. Then, a guy named Dom Augustin Calmet, a French theologian and scholar, he published a comprehensive treatise in 1751 titled Treatise on the Apparitions of Spirits and on Vampires or Revenants. Whew, that's a whole lot of words. Will I probably talk about some of those guys again? Maybe. Depends how time allows. But that's the first vampire or vampire to be written about. The word vampire. So that's certainly a good timeline. And, vampire was said a few times. But then I thought, should I just start with some of the nonsense if I just look up vampire on Wikipedia? And I figured, well, fuck it. Why not throw it in right here? Screw it. Why not throw it in right here? Let's see. From Vampire Wikipedia. Tales of supernatural beings consuming the blood or flesh of the living has been found in nearly every culture around the world for many centuries. The term vampire did not exist in ancient times. Blood drinking and similar activities were attributed to demons or spirits who would eat flesh and drink blood. Even the devil was considered synonymous with vampires. Almost every culture associates blood drinking with some kind of revenant or demon, or in some cases a deity. In India, tales of vitalis, ghoulish beings that inhabit corpses, have been compiled in whatever the hell that is, a prominent story. And it also talks about the returned spirits of evildoers, or those who died insane, also bear vampiric attributes. The Persians were one of the first civilizations to have tales of blood-drinking demons. Creatures attempting to drink blood from men were depicted on excavated pottery shards. Ancient Babylonia and Assyria had tales of the mythical Lilitu, which is synonymous with and giving rise to Lilith and her daughters, the Lilu, from Hebrew demonology. Lilitu was considered a demon that was often depicted as subsisting on the blood of babies, and Estries, female shape-shifting, blood-drinking demons, were said to roam the night among the population seeking victims. Whew. Alrighty. So it keeps going and going and going. It's a shockingly long Wikipedia page. And people are adding to it all the time. The kids love vampires to this day. I thought that kind of died out with Twilight. I don't know what vampire show is on right now that, besides What We Do in the Shadows, that makes the kids love the vampires still, but vampires, still sexy. You Google the word vampire, you're going to get more sexy stuff before you actually get down to the nitty-gritty that I wanted for this episode. So, there are a few possible sources for vampires, but trust me, it won't help you if you run into one of these. Especially if you run into one of these while traveling abroad, because, well, vampires vary greatly depending where you are in the world. And I figured, all right, with that, let's get to identifying vampires and the start of what do you do when you find one? In the beginning, this is how people identified vampires. You want to find a vampire grave? Here's how you do it. One method involved leading a virgin boy through a graveyard or church grounds on a virgin stallion. Now, the horse would supposedly balk at the grave in question. Kurt here, I get how they might know the boy is a virgin, but who's making sure that horses are virgins? Now, if you want to do this, if you want to say, like, I'm going to take a virgin boy and a virgin... Look, first of all, don't ever tell anybody, like, hey, what are your plans this weekend? Oh, I'm going to get myself a virgin boy and a virgin horse, and we're going to go to a graveyard. They're going to stop you right there, and the police are going to be at your door. But if you do this quietly and you have access, you got a virgin boy at home, and you got a virgin horse at home, and you're like, well, fuck it, let's go see if there's vampires in the nearby graveyard. Here's how you do it. To find a vampire grave, you typically need a black virgin horse. Unless you're in Albania, then you need a white virgin horse. So you got to make sure you pick the right virgin horse color. You take them both. The boy's riding the horse. Don't do it the other way around. If the horse is riding the boy, stop. You screwed up. Reset. Go back to one. Do it the right way. Put the boy on the horse, and you start leading him through the graveyard, and then a horse will balk at the grave in question. So if you're just walking and it balks at a grave, you got yourself a vampire. All right? But what about the vampire basics? Like, you found your vampire. You got to get rid of the boy and the horse like right away because there's a vampire right there. That's going to be bad for everybody involved. But what about the vampire basics? What do you do if you find a vampire? What works and what doesn't work? Like, for example, garlic. Why garlic? Well, I can tell you why, because I went down that rabbit hole. Garlic, specifically the chemical compound allicin inside garlic, is a powerful antibiotic. So it's an antibiotic. So back in the day, European beliefs around vampires stated that they were created by a disease of the blood. So their thought was a powerful antibiotic would kill a vampire or cleanse the blood. More research later, I found that an actual disorder of the blood called porphyria may be an origin for this one. So there's actually like a kernel of truth to the garlic vampire theory. Porphyria can cause those who suffer from it to look pale and even make their teeth look bigger because their gums shrink. So that's not bad enough. Well, get this. Garlic makes porphyria's symptoms worse. So people with porphyria would avoid garlic. They'd look sickly and pale and their teeth would look bigger. So back in the day, Europeans would be like, that guy's a vampire. So garlic, sure. Why not? Bring some garlic with you. What about mirrors? Well, the first known reference to this is from Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was published in 1897. But why? I was like, I don't understand the point of that. Is it just something that Bram Stoker went, and they can't see themselves in mirrors? Well, there's actually a few reasons online that this belief may exist, because mirrors were traditionally backed with silver. Some are still today, but mostly back in the day. And silver was commonly believed to repel evil spirits. And it still is. To this day, silver repels evil spirits. Interesting. So bring a mirror with you. How about counting? That's right, counting. It's said that if you throw seeds or grains, the vampire will have to stop trying to bite you until they count all the seeds that you threw, like Rain Man style. Now, it doesn't stop with seeds. Some Slavic coastal towns also believed that vampires would count the holes in a fishing net. So it was common practice to scatter seeds outside the entrance to a home or drape your fishing net over your front door. Now, some Chinese myths say that a vampire must count every grain if they come across a bag of rice. So this counting part of a vampire, it's pretty much around the world in a variation or two. It's mustard seeds or grain or rice or fishing nets. They all say that a vampire would stop to count, delaying them until the sun rose. So you could, or just get away. You don't have to sit there and wait for them. In Europe, mustard seeds would often be sprinkled on the roof of a house to keep vampires from landing on the roof of your house. Here's a fun fact, maybe. I don't know. You might find it fun. I kind of did. Did you know that mustard seeds were often used and eventually became known as Eye of Newt? You know that whole thing like Eye of Newt, toe of monkey, whatever the next line is? Eye of Newt. That's a witch thing, right? Well, it's for a reason. Because you'd sprinkle them on the roof of the house to keep evil away, to keep vampires away. I thought that one was neat. Okay, another not well-known one. So bring seeds with you, or grains, or, I don't know, fishnet. Wear fishnets. They gotta stop and count all the holes in your fishnets. So there you go. It's going to get a lot. Yeah, now that I'm saying it out loud, do not go to a graveyard with a virgin boy on a virgin horse wearing fishnets. Man or woman, it's going to end badly for you. Police are going to be called. But another not well-known one is a branch of wild rose and hawthorn. Now, these are sometimes associated with causing harms to vampire. Basically, it's the beginnings of a wood stake through the heart, which I'm going to get to in just a second. I already forgot how to say this word. Hold on one second. I want to make sure I say it right so people don't go, Kurt doesn't know how to say words. He's not very smart. Here we go.
Apotropaic.
That's right, apotropaic. Another or other apotropaics, which are things that are used to avert evil, in case you didn't know. Other apotropaics include the basics: crucifix, rosary, or holy water. Now, some folklore also states that vampires are unable to walk on consecrated ground, such as that of a church or temple, or cross running water. That those are pretty common. But according to reports in 1693 and 1694 concerning sightings of vampires in Poland and Russia, they claimed that when a vampire's grave was recognized, eating baked bread with its blood mixed into the flour or simply drinking it granted the possibility of protection. Let me tell you that one again. Once you find the vampire's grave, they want you to take some of its blood, go back home, bake some bread with the blood mixed into the flour, or just take some of the blood and quickly drink it. Kurt here, I think that turns you into a vampire, but according to late 1600s Russia and Poland, this protects you from vampires. And then, obviously, you got your wooden stake. Stakes to the heart kills the vampire. Sure. Let me go into some detail with that one. Ash was the preferred wood in Russia and the Baltic states, or hawthorn was the preferred wood in Serbia, oak in Silesia. Aspen was also used for stakes. It was believed that Christ's cross was made from aspen wood. So, aspen branches on the graves of purported vampires were also believed to prevent their rising at night. So you didn't even need to stake them in the heart. If you found aspen branches and just put them over the vampire's grave, they couldn't push them off. But it wasn't just the heart. The mouth was targeted in Russia and northern Germany, and the stomach in northeastern Serbia. Or, in some cultures, just piercing the skin of the chest was a way of you didn't have to go in, stab with a stake into the heart. You just had to pierce the skin of the chest. And they thought that was a way of, quote, deflating the bloated vampire. Now, this is similar to the practice of an anti-vampire burial. The anti-vampire burial is burying sharp objects, such as sickles, around the neck of a corpse so that they may penetrate the skin if the body bloats while transforming into a vampire. And this is a lot of what archaeologists are finding nowadays. When they find a vampire grave, it's usually that. There's a sickle around the neck of the corpse, or you could just decapitate the vampire, because this was also the preferred method in German and Western Slavic areas, with the head buried between the feet or behind the butt. That's right. Or just away from the body itself. That's right. In German and Western Slavic areas, instead of putting a sickle around the neck or a brick in the mouth or metal, blah, blah, I'm going to get to a lot of those. They just, cut the head off, put it behind the butt. That stops the vampire. Now, this act was seen as a way of hastening the departure of the soul, which in some cultures was said to linger in the corpse. So that's what their reasoning, I guess, was behind that. So the vampire's head, body, or clothes could also be spiked and pinned to the earth to prevent rising. That was a very common one. Again, archaeologists are finding this. Romani people, they drove steel or iron needles into a corpse heart and placed bit of steel in the mouth, over the eyes, the ears, between the fingers. At the time of burial, they also placed hawthorn in the corpse's sock, or drove a hawthorn stake through the legs, not the heart, through the legs, to pin it to the earth. There is a 16th century burial near Venice where a brick was forced into the mouth of a female corpse. And again, archaeologists think that it's a vampire slaying ritual. It was discovered in 2006, I believe. And then in Bulgaria, over 100 skeletons with metal objects such as plow bits embedded into the torso have been discovered, again, as a vampire slaying ritual by archaeologists. Still not done. Because pouring boiling water over the grave was thought to stop a vampire, or just burning the body to ashes. Pretty much a lot of cultures around the world say, screw it, just torch them. In southeastern Europe, a vampire could also be killed by being shot or drowned, or just by repeating the funeral service. So you do the funeral and you think, he might be a vampire. Do the funeral again. Or by sprinkling holy water on the body, or by exorcism. I thought that one was really interesting. there was a lot of thought back in the day in Southeastern Europe that doing an exorcism over a corpse would stop it from ever turning into a vampire. Now, in Romania, garlic would be placed in the mouth, and as recently as the 19th century, there was a precaution of shooting a bullet through the coffin. That was very common up until the 19th century, that you want to make sure that thing's dead and going to stay dead, put a bullet through the coffin. Here's the problem with that. Back in the day, a lot of people were buried that weren't really dead. They were just really, really sleepy in a coma, you know? And when they came back, they weren't really vampires. They just woke up. And what they found was that people were just, putting a bullet through them and killing them right then and there. They would shoot it, and then that person would be like, oh, my God, and then die. And then in their minds, they're like, yay, we killed a vampire. In reality, you just shot grandma who didn't actually die yet. Bizarre. Alrighty. Now there's a thing called vampire-resistant cases that I went down that rabbit hole. That's when the body of a vampire, one of these things, pick one of the things I just said, putting the head between the butt, the garlic in the mouth, sickle around the neck, wasn't enough to stop the vampire. When that happened, the body was dismembered, the pieces burnt, mixed with water, and then the family members of the dead person, the supposed vampire, had to drink that as a cure. That sounds disgusting. In Saxon regions of Germany, a lemon was placed in the mouth of suspected vampires. Come on, you're just making crap up then. That's the dumbest thing ever. But it makes me wonder because I don't know if you guys ever went down that rabbit hole of what was his name? Keith Carradine? The guy that the autoerotic asphyxiated himself. And they said that, if you're going to autoerotic asphyxiate yourself, have a lemon in your mouth, because then when you're about to pass out, you bite down on the lemon and the citric acid wakes you up again for some stupid reason. I'm wondering if this is connected to the Saxon regions of Germany putting a lemon in the mouth of a suspected vampire. But I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I don't need that Google trail. So, if something bad happens to me and then, they're the police go and look at my internet history and they go, lemon autoerotic asphyxiation vampire? What is this guy into? I don't need that kind of crap. So now I can just say it was for research for my podcast. That's why I looked into it. Look, from 1679, there's a guy named Philippe Rohr. He devoted an essay to the dead who chew their shrouds in the graves. And guess what? This actually happened, and I still can't figure out how the hell it happened. There's nothing that says why, when some bodies were exhumed, they had devoured the interior fabric of their coffin or sometimes bit into their own limbs. That's flippin' terrifying. But a subject exhumed by Otto in 1732, and then again by another man named Michael Ranft in 1734, the same person. So Philippe digs him up and goes, holy crap, that guy's chewing on his shroud in his grave. They put him back in the ground. 1732, Otto pulls him out. Holy crap, that guy's still chewing on stuff in his grave. Then, 1734, Michael Ranft. Same thing. They said the subject was based on the observation that when digging up graves, it was discovered that some corpses had at some point either devoured the interior fabric of their coffin or devoured their own limbs. That's a freaking vampire. That right there, this guy, Philippe Rohr, you found yourself a flippin' vampire. And I hope that you guys, did every one of the things I just said in the past 10 minutes above it to kill this flippin' vampire. If not, somebody's got to find out what grave these guys were digging up and then dig it up and see if it's still happening. So remember, if you remember anything from this episode, you take one thing away from this episode. It's this: be safe and do every one of these killing a vampire methods to every confirmed vampire you run across. A lot of them are dumb, gross. You're going to need lemons and garlic, and it's going to sound like you're making like a nice fish dinner, but instead you're just killing a vampire in the grave. Do it. Do every one of them to be safe. I don't want you accidentally digging up a vampire, and then when the vampire goes, thanks for digging me up. Why were you trying to put a lemon in my butt or my head behind my butt or any of those weird things that you got wrong? You go, oh, I learned it from watching Kurt at Paranormal Almanac. And then I got a vampire coming to my door. But that leads me to what happens if a vampire comes to your door? There are a lot, and I mean a lot of theories as to why, but they all agree upon that a vampire must be invited in with no explanations. No one's going, we think it came because this one vampire knocked on a door and that he was his son. He asked his son for food and then he just killed his son. No, but they all seem to say there is some truth to the belief that if a vampire comes to your door and you don't invite it in, vampire can't get you. But then you got to stay in your house forever because you got a vampire that's desperately trying to get you because now you know they're a vampire. Good luck with that, people. But there you go. All right, see, this is finally an hour into this episode, finally starting out to be a Paranormal Almanac field guide to surviving vampires. So, let's get to vampires from around the world. Around the world. Let's jump around the world in no particular order. Why? Because, well, it would have taken me more time to organize all of these, and I'm going to get to them all eventually in this episode anyway, so I figured, screw it. I'm just going to start with, Romania. Why not Transylvania? Relax. Calm down. I'm not even going to talk about Transylvania, except for me talking about it just now. I'm not even going to talk about Transylvania on this episode, because a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with Transylvania. So we're going to start with Romania. Romanians believe that vampire males can father children with human women. Now, these babies would be born as moroi, or live vampires, which is not to be confused with strigoi, or dead vampires, and beliefs haven't stopped in Romania because all the way back to 2005, there are reports in Romania about vampires when a group of 6 village men exhumed the corpse of a fellow villager that they were convinced had become a strigoi, the dead vampire. So they sprinkled the body with garlic. They removed the heart. They burnt it. Then they drank the ashes in a glass of water, which I'm still saying is pretty damn gross. But in Romania, you got 2 types of vampires, your moroi and your strigoi. So let's keep on going with vampires from around the world, to Mexico. The vampires here are called chorti and are hairy, tall, have claws, but are friendly. Well, except for maybe the occasional devouring of human blood and flesh. They didn't really get into that. They all want to say that, no, chorti are friendly vampires, but they're still going to kill some people and drink their blood and flesh. But Mexico also has an Aztec vampire called, I'm going to get this wrong, Cihuateteo. Cihuateteo, which is a white, shriveled creature. Look, if you're an Aztec person listening to this episode right now, just be thankful I attempted that. And also, welcome, and that's cool. And can you show me Aztec gold and stuff? But Cihuateteo, which is a white, shriveled creature, believed to lurk in temples and crossroads that take children as its prey, they're the bad vampires, apparently. I'm not saying it. If you're a Cihuateteo, I'm not saying you're a bad vampire. I'm saying that there's a lot of sites that say you're not as friendly as chorti. But there's also a third Mexican vampire called the Click. I had to pronounce it like 90 times. It's Tlacique. And every time I said, how do you pronounce that? They go, click. So the click, they either turn into a ball of light or disguise themselves as a turkey while out searching for prey. So if you think you're fine in Mexico and you're like, I'm staying away from the Aztec vampires. I said hi to a chorti, and he said hi back, didn't want to eat me. But there's this freaking turkey that's been following me for a while. And every now and then, a ball of light will be following me for a while. You got yourself a click. Alrighty, from there, let's go to Greece. Now, if you want to find vampires in Greece, you head to either Santorini or Crete. And I've actually talked about both of those. There's an island in Greece that they think a lot of vampires used to live in. They're called Vrikolax. No, I got that wrong. Vrikolakas. That's it. Vrikolakas by most, and Katakhanades, I got that so wrong, by Cretans. People from Crete. That's what you call them. How do you become a vampire in Greece? Well, it's as easy as committing a serious crime, or you just get excommunicated from the Orthodox Church, or a cat jumping across your grave will make you a vampire. That's some bullshit. You did nothing wrong. You're lying there dead, and some cat just decides to jump across your grave, and boom, now you're a vampire? Now you're a Cretan vampire? Come on, that ain't cool. All right, let's keep on moving on to Africa. That's right. In West Africa, the Ashanti people talk about the iron-toothed and tree-dwelling Asanbosum, and the Yu people talk about the Ads, which can take the form of a firefly and hunts children. Or the Eastern Cape region in Africa has the Impudulu, which take the form of a large taloned bird and can summon thunder and lightning. Okay, that's Kurt here. A large taloned bird that can summon thunder or lightning. That sounds nothing like a vampire, but I'm here for it. That sounds like a Pokemon. If you go to Madagascar, you have the Ramanga, which is a living vampire who drinks the blood and eats the nail clippings of nobles. Okay, also gross. Why? Why you got to do that? Let's jump down under to Australia, where you find the Yaramayahu. Yaramayahu, which is a short, red man with a disproportionately large head and octopus-like suction cups on its hands and feet. I butchered so many things in that sentence. Australia, the Yaramayahu, a short, red man with a disproportionately large head and octopus-like suction cups on its hands and feet, who drop from fig trees onto unsuspecting people and then use its suckers to drain its victims until he or she is teetering on the brink of death, but not dead. Then the Yaramayahu wanders off for a bit before swallowing the person whole. Why? Who knows? But it's not done yet, because then the Yaramayahu takes a nap, wakes up, throws up the person that it just swallowed, who is still alive, but in a weird way is, quote, a little bit shorter with a newfound red glow. Seriously, what is happening, Australia? But if you get caught by a Yaramayahu too many times, you will eventually become one. That's why you're slowly finding that newfound red glow thing. You're becoming shorter and shorter and redder until you are one. That's flippin' weird. Australians, you got everything down there. I'm telling you. I want to visit you. I love you. How about America? Yeah, we got the Rougarou, which I've talked about before. Or, from the Native Americans, the closest we get to a vampire that I could find are the Mosquito Man. That's right. The Mosquito Man hunted the Northwest Coast tribes. It looked like a man, except that instead of a mouth, it had a long mosquito-like proboscis that it used to suck the brain out of a person's head. Now, it was said the Mosquito Man would only appear in groups of people as they celebrated, and that way it was able to avoid detection before it had fed. You know, so if you're at a party and everybody's out like, yay, you got a promotion in your job, look around. If you see one person in that party that has a mosquito-like proboscis instead of a mouth, you leave that party. You listen to me right. That's the second thing you got to take away from this episode. You leave that party right then and there. In one legend, the Mosquito Man came to a group of brothers who had just returned from a hunt. When the eldest brother's child began to cry, each man tried in turn to quiet it. When it came time for the Mosquito Man's turn, the baby quieted. And it was only after he had passed its body to the next brother that they realized the Mosquito Man that they passed a freaking baby to had feasted on its brain. Again, it's not like it looks like a normal dude. It's got a mosquito-like thingy sticking out of its mouth where its mouth should be. You don't pass a baby to that and be like, can you maybe quiet this? And then it starts sucking on the baby's brain. And they, well, you quieted it. We should have been more specific. So the brothers attacked the monster, who became enraged and slew all except the youngest of them. That man he chased all around until eventually the brother led the mosquito man to the lake. When the creature fell into the water, the tribesmen began to sing and the lake froze, holding the monster with only its head above the ice. The brother then gathered wood and set a fire over the mosquito man's frozen head sticking out of the frozen ice. The ashes that took flight in the wind afterwards became the first mosquitoes. Well, thanks a lot, jerks. Now, every time I want to go outside, I get eaten alive by mosquitoes because you had to do that to the mosquito man's head. You should have just not given the baby to the mosquito man, and then none of this would happen. I wouldn't have mosquitoes. I could go hang out in my backyard tiki bar without getting bit up all the time. Stupid mosquito man. What else? Native Americans also talked about Two-Face. No, not the Batman villain. You got a picture. It's more like Voldemort in the first Harry Potter book. Because the Sioux and other Plains tribes said that the Two-Face resembled humans, but they have a second face on the back of their heads. And if you make eye contact with them, it'll either strike you dead or paralyze you, allowing them to come back and stab you to death with their sharp elbows. Yep, I said it. Sharp elbows. Not fangs, sharp elbows. The only escape is to avoid ever meeting their eyes. And you know what? I think that's just good advice. Never look anyone that you don't know in the eyes. And if they've got sharp elbows, definitely don't look them in the eyes. There's a lot of other weird vampire variants in America, in the United States of America. But let's keep going around the world because this episode's getting a little bit on the long side. Let's go to Japan. Now, Japan has the Nukakubi. That's a being whose head and neck detach from its body to fly about seeking human prey at night. All right, sure. How about Malaysia? That's right. I'm going to start rapid firing these to you now. In Malaysia, you've got the Penanggalan, who is a woman who obtained her beauty through the active use of black magic or other unnatural means. Now, it's like the one from Japan. She's also able to detach her fanged head, but in this one, the Penanggalan, when she detaches her fanged head, her organs and intestines are still attached to it and trailing from her neck. Now, the head, with all of this viscera trailing behind it, flies around in the night looking for blood, typically from pregnant or menstruating women. Yeah. Hold on, I gotta take a drink. Of water, not of blood. This isn't like this. Me talking about this, I'm like, I could go from some pregnant women or menstruating women's blood right now. No, not even remotely. Let's go to Germany. Here they have the Neuntoter, which translates to the Nine Killer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Neuntoter. Yeah. See, I can count to 10 in German. That's the only thing I can really remember. What else do I remember from German class in high school? Das tut mir leid. That means either excuse me or I'm sorry. I think it means I'm sorry. Let's see. Ich heiße Kurt. Und du? Ich sprechen Sie Deutsch, aber nicht so gut. That's about it. It says, hi, my name's Kurt, and you? I speak German, but not so good. And then, like, all the swear words, like, Fick du Arschloch, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, everybody remembers the swear words, but it's about all I can remember. I can't even remember how to say, like, where's the library or put that on the table. I don't remember any of that. But I'd like to. I like German. That was fun. Anyhow, we're in Germany. They got the Neuntoter, the Nine Killer. It's covered with open sores, smells like excrement, and carries all sorts of plagues. Anyone born with teeth is supposedly doomed to be a Neuntoter, which I know that it's not too common for babies to be born with teeth, but it seems like you hear about that more often than not. Like, I've had friends that are like, yeah, it was so weird. My son was born with a tooth. And you go, well, that's weird. Your kid's going to be a freak. Now you can go, oh, that's weird. Your kid's going to be a German vampire. So upon the Neuntoter's demise, someone must cut off their head between 11 p.m. and midnight only, then stick a lemon in their mouth to keep them from turning into a vampire. Yep. Now they're being even more specific with the lemon in their mouth crap. and saying you got to do it's like gremlin rules now. You got to do it between 11 p.m. and midnight. In your own time zone, it doesn't give you that specifics. What if it's daylight saving? Doesn't tell you. So good luck with that one. You have a baby, was born with a tooth, you got yourself a Neuntoter, a 9-killer. They also got the Naxer, who likes to snack on family members only and is created, sadly, by suicide or a fatal accident. From that point on, they're more like basic vampires, so you know how to kill them. So let's keep on moving on. Let's go to Vietnam. They have the Ma Ca Rong, which is a type of demon that stuffs its toes into its nostrils at night and flies by its ears into houses with pregnant women in them to suck their blood. Having fed on these women, the Ma Ca Rong then returns to its house, cleans itself by dipping its toes into barrels of sappanwood water. Sure, why not? This is the worst vampire ever. You're going to have a cool vampire, have it like turn it like bat and turn into a bat. Don't have it go Mac and wrong and then stuff its toes into its nostrils and then fly with its ears into houses with just pregnant women. That's Vietnam. There you go. You made the list of the worst vampire on this episode. Good job. Up next is the Jewish folklore. That includes several types of vampires, including Estries, Aluka, and Lilith. Estries are female vampires that are thought to attack Hebrew people. The name comes from the French word strix, which means night owl. Aluka, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong and I apologize, is a female demon or vampire that may have Babylonian origins. They're sometimes associated with Lilith, who even considered to be her descendant. They're even considered to be her descendant. In a riddle in Proverbs, Solomon referred to Aluka's ability to curse a womb that is carrying a seed, and they think that's what made these vampires. And then obviously Lilith is a figure that is sometimes associated with, cursing seeds. I just said that. All right, let's go to Iceland. Now, this one's not really a vampire, but it's called the Draugrs. Now, they're the undead and drag humans into open graves in order to make more Draugrs. And now, they don't drink your blood, but they do suck. That's all it says. Every one of the websites. They don't drink your blood, but they do suck. Giggity. They're known for attacking livestock and harassing the living. To stop a Draugr from dragging you down, chop off its head, nail its body into a casket with stakes. Look, there's a whole museum. Like, I went down this rabbit hole for a while. There's a whole freaking museum there if you want to know more about this, but this episode is way too long. So I'm just going to skip ahead. You can check it out on yourself. If you happen to be in Iceland and you want to hang out with vampire kind of thingies, not really vampires, there you go. Go to the museum. I'm sure there's only one. If you go there and you go, hey, look, I was listening to this podcast called Paranormal Almanac, and they mention there's a museum for Draugrs, and they go, which one would you like? Well, there's many. That's on them. That's just shitty. I think they only have one. So I would assume, just ask for the museum, and they'll take you there. All right, let's go to New Guinea. In New Guinea, it's called the Forso, and it's completely invisible. Rather than drinking blood, the Forso feeds off, quote, the emotions, life energy, and sexual energy of their victims, leaving them feeling drained, leading to bad luck, and even causing some kind of depression. Kurt here. I think I have a Forso in Burbank. There's got to be a Forso in Burbank because I always feel drained. Bad luck? Yep. I haven't talked about it on this podcast. I was walking Rum, and there's these wild parrots that migrate from like Pasadena to Burbank. They're all over Southern California. They're really cool, very bright green, loud as hell parrots, and it's really cool to see them. Well, I was walking Rum the other day, and 100 parrots decided to just open their bowels above me, and I just got rained down the worst parrot shitstorm you've ever had, ever. I would hazard a guess that in 2024, I have been pooped on by more parrots consecutively in one instance than anybody else in the world. And that's not a humble brag. I think that's true. So, yeah, I just got this shitstorm of parrot poop on me and went, oh, my God, oh, my God. My hat, my jacket, like all of me, my hands, it was everywhere. Rum, not a poop on her. She just zigged and zagged. Parrots didn't get her. So I went back to the house, basically gave myself like a oh, what's the name of that shower where they like that like nuclear shower, like a not a rosewood shower. What the hell is it called? There's a movie in the 80s about Silkwood, a Silkwood shower. Basically, just walked into the shower with everything on, just turned down the water and just watched it rain off of me, and then threw everything I owned into the washer and dryer. It was not a fun day, but then everybody, like, I posted about it on Facebook on my private page, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's good luck to be pooped on by one bird, so that's good luck. Go buy yourself a lotto ticket. So I bought $20 worth of lotto tickets. I didn't win crap. Not a one. So I'm saying there's got to be a Forso in Burbank. Bad luck? I call that bad luck. Depression? Yeah, sure, maybe. You know what? I'm not the most happiest guy in the world, but I'm not the saddest guy in the world. I wouldn't say I have depression, but I'm thinking that there's a Forso. So what do you do, or I do, if you encounter a Forso, probably in Burbank? Well, the Forso can be kept away using prayers, but only if the Forso in question was religious in life. That's it. That's all they got for me. So if I find the non-religious Forso and I'm like, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned, he's going to be like, our Father in heaven. He's going to be like, I don't care about that. And parrot poop, like that kind of a thing. So the Forso is considered a lonely soul looking for attention, though. So get this. Here's what you can do for a Forso. If you give a Forso attention, the attacks may stop. But how do you do that? Well, it's not as easy as like, fine, I'm sorry, Forso, can I buy you a cup of coffee, or here's a cookie? Want to hang out for a couple minutes in the tiki bar? No. First, you got to find the grave of the Forso. It must be discovered, and its bones must be removed from the earth. Those bones should then be taken home and cared for. This provides the Forso with the attention it needs, and it will not feed off others. So here's your fun project if you're in the Southern California area. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. I need someone to find this Forso's grave, pull up all its bones, and care for them. Gingerly give them all the attention it needs, and then maybe it'll stop being a Forso. Maybe. Not necessarily. All right, let's move on to Brazil. Brazil, it's right. This episode's still going on, folks. Brazil. See, you didn't get an episode last week, so I give you a little bit longer episode this week. And boy, howdy, the research that I did for this flipping episode is stupid. Brazil, it's called the Acima. During the day, they appear to be an elderly man or woman, but at night, they transform into a glowing orb. Now, it can be pale blue, red, deep aquamarine, or dark blue. And it's important to know this because once it's an orb, it hunts by flying through the sky, searching for its prey, which are sleeping humans. When they find one, they either transform back into their human form to drain them of blood, or they remain as a glowing orb to drain their energy. Here's where the colors come in. The pale blue Acima drains people slowly over time. So its victims, not people. So its victims are likely to survive the first attack. The red, dark blue, and aquamarine variants can be deadly in just a single night. So you gotta know your orbs, people. How do you stop one? Well, eat some garlic or do the whole seeds thing, but to kill them, you must find their discarded human skin when they're orbs and then burn the skin, which is going to smell bad. That's going to smell horrible, but burn it anyway. You got to know your orbs. If you're walking around in Brazil and you see a pale blue orb and it comes over you, you're probably going to be fine. But if it's red, dark blue, or aquamarine, that could be deadly. Just one single night. Eat your garlic, throw some seeds, find some discarded human skin, burn it. Hopefully it's the right one. All right, how about Russia? Here they have the Stikini. They look just like you or I, except for their stingers hidden underneath their tongues. Now here in Russia, they can hunt day or night, and they kiss you and sting you with the stingers under their tongue until you're dazed. Then they drain you of blood. So if you're walking around in Russia and some Russian just walks up to you and is like, hey, you want a kiss? Feel free to say no, or just be like, I don't know, let's see underneath your tongue. If there's no stingers and you want to kiss a Russian, then yeah, go for it. Or if there are stingers and you want to kiss a freaking stickney, yeah, go for it. I'm not your parent. Do what you want to do. Let's move on to Poland. According to Polish folklore, people with red hair and extra teeth were at risk of becoming vampires after they died. To keep the dead from rising, they were buried in the fetal position with their hands bound and heads cut off. What's with the world? Why is most of the world hate redheaded people? You know, gingers, the gingers got no soul and all that crap. Look, I think redheads are gorgeous. Most of my favorite women in the world are redheads, and they're just beautiful. So back off with all of this, like, oh, you got red hair? You probably got extra teeth. You're probably a vampire. I'm going to bury you in a fetal position with your hands bound, your head cut off. Don't ever say that to a redhead. They got enough crap going on. They also have the Wieszczy, which I know I said wrong. It's Wieszczczy. It's something like Wieszczy. According to legend, some people are born with the destiny of becoming a vampire. It's discernible by a cowl located on a newborn's head. Kurt here, I had to look that up. What the hell is a caul? C-A-U-L. Well, a caul birth is when a baby is born with part of the amniotic sac or membrane covering their head or face, giving them the appearance of a veil. So that's gross. If I ever have a kid and they pull the kid out of her and they show them to me and it's got a membrane covering their face like a veil, I am going to think they're a vampire, and I'm not going to trust that baby ever. In order to prevent these individuals from becoming Wieszczys, the cowl must be removed, dried, ground, and then fed to that kid on their 7th birthday. Worst birthday gift ever. All right, here's from the wiki about them. Today, Wieszczys were said to be indistinguishable from humans, although in some stories they had a ruddy complexion and an excitable nature. At the time of their death, a Wieszczy would refuse to take the sacrament. Their body would cool closely, and their limbs would remain limber. Their lips and cheeks would remain red, and spots of blood would often appear under their fingernails and on their face. According to the legend, the Wieszczy did not die, instead returning to life at midnight after its burial and eating its clothes and some of its own flesh. It's one of those things. The vampire would then leave the grave, return home to eat its family and neighbors. After visiting its relatives, Kurt here, I wouldn't call that visiting. I'd call that murdering. It would go to the local church and ring the church bell. Those who heard the bell were supposedly destined to be the vampire's next victims. That's some bullcrap right there. That is some bullcrap. How do you protect yourself from a Wieszczy? You must receive the Eucharist. Soil was placed inside the coffin and underneath the body to prevent it from returning home. A crucifix or coin was placed under the tongue of the corpse or for the vampire to suck on. A net would sometimes be placed inside the coffin. Supposedly 1 knot per year would be untied before the Wieszczy could then rise again. Bodies were laid in the coffin face down, and believes that the corpse, if it returned to life, would simply dig further into the earth instead of coming up and getting you. That's a dumb vampire. Cool. On to Ghana. Alrighty, in Ghana, here the vampires are called Asambassam, and you find them hanging out in the trees. Witnesses describe this creature as a humanoid with hideous pink skin and long red hair. Fuck off. And enormous iron hooks for legs. When an Asambassam attacks from above, it'll jab its metal feet into your neck and drain you dry. Now, if you spot one of these creatures, don't scream Asambassam, because anyone that says the word brings bad luck upon themselves and those around them. Kurt here, if you see an Asambassam as it's shoving its iron hooks for legs into your neck, you've got bad luck. You're not going to bring bad luck. So instead, just scream, "Oh shit, there's a terrifying creature with enormous iron hooks for legs that is trying to drain all of my blood. Oh God, please someone help," instead of saying Asambassam. That's the third thing you got to take away from this episode. Let's move on to India, huh? Here they're called Brahma Parusha and are malevolent spirits that delight in consuming human blood and flesh. Now, it attacks its victim's neck and pours blood from the carotid artery, the main artery. You know what I'm trying to say. It's boom, stabs you in the neck. That artery right there. And they let that blood pour into another human skull. It then takes its time sipping blood from the skull mug and as it feasts on your brain. Finally, the Brahmapurusha dances around the mutilated body and wraps its intestines around the head and neck. That's terrifying. Let's move on. How do you stop one of those? No idea. I went, whoa, I do not like these. I'm going to move on. So if you're in India and you think that thing's coming at you, first of all, protect your arteries in your neck. And if you see someone, well, actually, if you're in India and you see someone walking around with a human skull mug, like a tiki mug, but it's a human skull, and it's like sipping from it and eating flesh, eating brain, you're probably going to die anyway. So if I did find out how to stop it, it wasn't going to help you. So you're dead is what I'm saying. All righty. Let's go to Trinidad and Tobago. Here it's called the Sukuyant, and it looks like a reclusive little old lady, but at night, she becomes a fireball that flies into homes and sucks the blood of victims until they die. Now, these female vampires, they drink human blood for nourishment and give the excess blood to the demon Basil in return for evil powers. So it's like a vampire pyramid scheme right there. Quick, let's go to Spain. Legend has it that in the 12th century, a Catalan, sure, C-A-T-A-L-A-N, Catalan noble named Count Estruch lived in Llers Castle and burned numerous women to death as witches. So this guy, 12th century, this count, he burns numerous women to death as witches. Now, before one of them died, this actual witch, he actually found one that was really a witch, she laid a curse on him that transformed him into a vampire. So for years, this Count Estruch, he sucked the blood of young local women, causing them to give birth to baby monsters. Now, eventually, the villagers hired a vampire slayer. Some versions say it was an elderly nun who hunted and killed him. Yay! An elderly nun killed a vampire. Today, Spain has a couple of different vampires, like in Asturias, they call it the Guaja. It's described as an old vampire who bites with a single tooth and sucks the blood of its victim. That's the saddest vampire on this one. It's just like a really old vampire who's only got one tooth left. And he's like, like Capri Sunning your neck. Let's move on to the Montenegro, Albania vampire called the Shretiga. It's a vampire, but it's also a vampiric witch that hungers for a baby's blood only. Now, it's said that she enters a nursery by disguising herself as a flying insect like a bee and then slurps up the baby's lifeblood. To get rid of a Shretiga, Albanians can make crucifixes out of pig bones or carry silver coins soaked in blood. Of the two, I'm going to say you have a better chance of walking around without people wondering what the hell's going on if you just carry silver coins that have been soaked in blood. Don't walk around with a crucifix made out of pig bones. Also, if you see a baby, like, bite and drink blood, if you see, like, a bee drink, like, baby's blood, and you happen to be in Montenegro, Albania, yeah, you probably got yourself one of these horrific vampiric witches, and it doesn't say how to kill her. That doesn't say. Again, it says to get rid of one, but it doesn't say how to kill one. So good luck with that, people. Let's move on to Southwell, England. While building a school in Nottinghamshire, a town of Southwell in 1959, there we go, construction workers uncovered a mysterious burial site. They were shocked to find the ancient skeleton of a man with metal spikes jammed through his heart, shoulders, and ankles. So a vampire burial. You might be like, who cares? That was in 1959. Well, here's where it gets interesting. Archaeologists dated the body between 550 and 700 AD. That is before the earliest known vampire legends in Europe. Which I was going to put this at the beginning of this episode because it might be the earliest vampire. But it was found in 1959, so I didn't. So vampires in England, they're just like vampires. You know how to kill them. I gave you a whole list at the very beginning, but I thought that one was really interesting, and there's not a lot more to it, unfortunately, online. So with that, let's move on to the Caribbean, because I'm running out of steam and time here. Here they're called the Lugaru. Now, these shapeshifters appear to be ordinary human women. That is, until they shed their skin like a snake. Because after dark, the Lugaroo peels off her skin to hunt, then flies around in search of potential victims. How do they fly around? Oh, just the normal way. Just with flames shooting from her armpits and orifices, leaving a luminous trail through the sky. Kurt here again. It's always going to be me. I don't know why I say Kurt here. If you hear my voice, it's me. That's a vampire I kind of want to see. I don't like the fact they have to peel off their skin, but you're telling me there's a Caribbean woman flying around with flames shooting from her armpits and orifices, leaving a luminous trail in the sky? Now, I don't want to be bitten by one, but I kind of want to see that vampire. All right, that about does it. You know what? I'm gonna stop right there. That about does it. This is a nowhere near complete list of batshit crazy vampires from around the world. Vampires from around the world. Vampires from around the world. I was trying to give it an echo. I'm picking up speed here. But let's talk about some specific vampires, okay? Even though this episode's going long, let's keep going. Let's do some specific vampires, like the Shoemaker of Breslau. Now, for this one, we go way back to 1591 in Wrocław, Poland. In September of 1591, a shoemaker named Weinricius cut his own throat. Why? Who knows? Let's keep going. So Weinricius was buried the day after his death, and it wasn't long before his ghost was spotted walking around the town and also getting into bed with people at night and gripping their arms and legs so firmly he left bruises in the shapes of fingers on their bodies. So this went on for, what would you think, like a couple of days before villagers were like, that guy sucks. No, it went on for 7 months, which in my opinion is way too long to do something about this creepy undead shoemaker. But the local people exhumed Weinricius's body, and they found that it looked fresh and complete, with, quote, the skin tight like a drum. I think someone smacked him on the ass. There was a rose-shaped mole on his foot, which is suspected of being a witch's mark. So the body was taken out and reburied under some gallows. However, didn't work. Weinricius continued to terrorize the town. So the body was brought up again and dismembered. Now, those who did the butchering remarked that his heart, quote, looked as good as that of a freshly slaughtered calf. Creepy. This whole town, creepy. Next, all the bits of Weinricius were burnt. The ashes were cast into the river, and that seemed to stop his vampire ghost from being all pervy in other people's beds. So there you go. This is one that is a historical writings about a, he did exist. I found that he did exist. He did die, and apparently the town did all that crazy crap to him. Up next is the Prowler of Pinched. From that, we go into the year 1592. That's right. Only a year later, a local dignitary named Johannes Kuntz was severely injured one day after being kicked in the privates, and possibly the head too, by, quote, a lusty gelding. After this, Johannes began showing signs of delirium. Gee, no idea why. He was only kicked in the privates and possibly the head too by a horse. But this made people think, oh crap, he made a pact with the devil. Johannes made a pact with the devil. Kurt here, no. A freaking horse kicked his junk up into his brains. Give the guy a break. Nope, they didn't, because while on his deathbed, a black cat burst into the room and pounced on the dying Johannes, quote, scratching his face to shreds. All right. That dude had a forso for show. That guy had some serious bad luck. I mean, I know it's 1592, and the chances of being kicked in the junk by a horse were probably higher than they are today, but you get kicked in the junk and then in the head, you're dying and going crazy, and people are like, you're made a pact with the devil, and then a cat jumps into, while you're dying, cat jumps on your bed and shreds your face. You did something bad in that life. I don't care. You did something. You deserve that somehow, Johannes. So anyhow, right after his burial, they saw him again, And they said whenever they would see him or his ghost or whatever it was, hoof marks would show up in the snow. Now they were like, oh yeah, that's a vampire. See, he was not only accused of like doing vampire stuff, he was also accused of sexually assaulting a woman and tormenting the local vicar by squeezing him when he was in bed. All right, what's with the crazy bed vampires over here? So 5 months go by of this. Yep, they let 5 months go by of this, and they dig him up, and his body showed no signs of decomposition. And when his leg was cut with a blade, fresh blood poured out. So the body was removed and burnt. Boom. End of this pervy vampire. What is with these weird-ass vampires? Next, we go to Arnold Pale, around 1730-ish. He was a young Serbian soldier who had returned to his home village of Medveda after a tour of duty in Greece. He told his wife-to-be that while serving in Greece, he'd actually been attacked by a vampire. And then he went, oh, no, I'm not too worried about it. I'm fine. I'm not going to become a vampire because I found the vampire's grave and I burnt it. You all know where this is going. A little while later, he was climbing up on a hay wagon when he lost his footing, broke his neck, and died several days later. It wasn't long after this that he was buried that villagers began to see him wandering around at night. Some even had dreams where he visited them while they were in bed, and the next day, they'd feel physically drained and weakened by something. Then, the deaths in the village started. So his grave was opened up. His body was covered in garlic and a stake driven through his heart. Things stopped for 6 years when, quote, an epidemic of vampirism hit the same village. Lots of deaths. The people are like, we don't know who's causing all these deaths, but there's a lot of them. So they exhume 14 corpses from the village, and they examine them with a medical report of the findings signed by an Austrian doctor and also army officials. 12 of the bodies were found to be, quote, unmistakably in the vampire condition. That's a messed up town. That's a cursed village right there. Alrighty, let's move to Pisco, Peru on the night of June 8th, 1993. Yeah, 1993. That's when 1,000 people stood by the grave of Sarah Ellen Roberts, a woman the press had dubbed Dracula's bride. Alrighty, we have to go way back for this one. So the story goes that Sarah, born in Blackburn in 1872, was accused of murder and witchcraft and being a vampire because why not throw everything at her? So as punishment on June 9th, 1913, she was chained up, nailed shut inside a lead-lined coffin, and left to die. Now, they tried to bury her in England, and they were like, we don't want her. No, thank you. So Sarah's husband actually roamed around the world for 4 years before finding a resting place for her in Peru. Remember, we're in Pisco, Peru in 1993. So, yeah, the tale says that after her burial, the people of Pisco were horrified to learn that before she was sealed shut in that lead-lined coffin in the chains, she promised to return to seek vengeance in 80 years. All right. So cut back to those 1,000 people, June 9th, 1993, Pisco, Peru. What happened? Nothing. I gotta say, if I was in Pisco, Peru, and I was like some government official, I'd say, you know what? Let's dig her up. We'll open up the lead-lined coffin. She's got chains on. We'll see if she's still out there being a vampire. She's in there being a vampire. She's still alive. Not alive, but, undead as a vampire. And if she is, we'll do the vampire stuff. We'll kill her. But if not, we're going to say she probably wasn't accused. She wasn't really, involved with the murder and the witchcraft and the being a vampire. And maybe we should give her a proper burial. That's what I would do. But if she was a freaking vampire in there, how cool would that be? You got 1,000 people in 1993, like just waiting around for a freaking vampire who vowed vengeance. What? Why would you go there, 1,000 people? You got nothing better to do? And well, actually, if I was close by, I'd be like, screw it. Oh, I'll go by. When there's 1,000 of us, well, she can't kill us all. I'll get away before she gets me. Yeah, I would have gone there. All right, that makes sense. Let's move on to London. London, 6 a.m., Sunday, April 16th, 1922. That was when a man walking along a deserted Coventry Street in London suddenly, quote, felt the presence of a man or thing grab hold of him tightly, sink its teeth into his neck, and draw out some blood. Now, the next thing he knew, he was in Charing Cross Hospital being told by doctors that his neck had been punctured by something resembling a long, thin spike. This is real, people. I could find evidence that this happened. Weirdly enough, the same thing happened to 2 more people later that day, both in the same spot on Coventry Street in London, April 16th, 1922. Now we get the legend. Legend says, no suspect was ever identified, but an off-duty policeman in a pub was apparently overheard saying that the police had hired a vampire hunter that tracked the vampire to Highgate Cemetery and killed it by opening up its coffin and driving a stake through its heart. All right. More grain of salt legend stuff, though. An incident that occurred around that same time in West Drayton, which is about 15 miles from west of that Coventry Street. On the night of the full moon, several local people reported seeing a huge bat with a 6-foot wingspan flying around the churchyard, ducking in and out of graves and mausoleums. The police went to the scene. They saw the giant bat, which they said screamed and flew away. I don't believe that crap. I think they went there and they saw the huge bat. They screamed, and then it flew away. All right, let's go up to the story of Kuno Hoffmann. This is from Nuremberg, Germany in 1971. Now, a series of exhumed corpses were found exhibiting signs that they had fresh bites taken out of them and that they had been gnawed on. Many of the women corpses showed signs of sexual assault. Most have been mutilated with a knife. Some were beheaded. A few had their hearts cut out. This is 1971, people. I'm not back in the 1500s. 1971 in Germany. So, between 1971 and 1972, police found 35 bodies that were violated in this matter until on May 6, 1972, a young man named Marcus Adler and his fiancée, 18-year-old Ruth Lissy, were found shot to death in their car. People are like, oh, okay, it's not the same thing. Who cares? No. Their bodies were defiled in the same manner as those found in the cemetery. The blood, the fresh bites, the gnawed upon, the sexual assault on the woman. There were signs that someone had drank Ruth's blood. Not done yet, because right after the murder with Marcus and Ruth, another young woman was found shot with signs of blood being harvested from her dead body. So, press started calling it the Vampire of Nuremberg. Cut to May 1972. George Warmoth, who is a morgue attendant, was making his rounds to the cemetery when he spotted a man kissing a recently disinterred corpse, which seemed odd because that was George's job. Kidding. So George is like, what is happening? That dude's kissing a recently disinterred corpse. So the corpse kissing guy, he turns around, sees George. George sees him really clear, and he takes a shot at George with a gun, misses, and then runs away. George calls the police, and with his great description, because he was very close to this guy, the police arrested a 41-year-old deaf-mute German man by the name of Kuno Hoffmann. Turns out Kuno had been in and out of institutions his whole life, escaping from them a total of 12 times. He'd also been in prison, and he confessed to the grave robberies, the assaults, and the murders. He then went on to explain how he moved from molesting corpses from fresh graves to killing the people and molesting those people because it became, quote, difficult to get his hands on newly dead people in morgues. He then told police how he would browse the local newspapers for death notices to determine his next victim, and that he had a set of keys to a local cemetery for some damn strange reason, and used these to give himself access to the bodies at night. So, yeah, he was arrested. I don't know how he's deaf and mute. I don't know how he admitted all this, but somehow he did. He was arrested, and later in prison, he said he developed a strong interest in the occult. Huh, no shit, you don't say. He read numerous volumes on Satanism, black magic, vampirism, and dark rituals. He referred to these as, quote, the occult sciences, and that he did what he did in an attempt to make himself stronger, and make himself more handsome. Yeah, this deaf-mute guy who's going around kissing and doing other nasty things to dead bodies was doing it so he could be, stronger and more handsome. Now, depending where you get your info, it's rumored that one of his last actions before being locked up for good was to actually ask for one last sip of blood from a virgin. Yeah. His request was denied, by the way. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just say that does it for this episode. I'm almost at 2 hours here. That was a long one, right? That was a good one, I think. That was a lot of research. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that one as much as I enjoyed doing it, which was a lot. I really like this one. But if you didn't get enough of vampires, you're going to have to become a patron. Because, well, part 2 of this episode will be a patron exclusive next week. That's right. Patrons, you're getting your next episode next week, and it's part 2 to this one. Once again, I'm your host, Kurt Samvig. This has been another edition of Paranormal Almanac, All Vampires. Remember what I told you. I've taught you well.
Fuck off,